the essence of someone's soul and who they are and how they turn up in the world, and how they treat others. To me, that's what real beauty is. I mean, we all have this, individual attraction to what we see that we find beautiful. But when you have a connection with how someone treats you, their philosophies, their intention in the world, and it comes from a place of good, to me, that's real beauty.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk, where we feature the top medical practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Troy Laing, Australia-born co-founder of Culture OC Performance and Recovery in Newport Beach, the most complete biohacking and cellular regeneration center on the West Coast. For over 20 years, he's worked on building advanced protocols, stacking through his own personal journey using tech like hyperbaric oxygen, full-body PEMF, medical-grade red and near-infrared light, peptide therapy, and functional medicine to reverse chronic disease, support cancer recovery, and dramatically extend health span. Together with his wife, Pia, they've created a hub in Newport Beach where CEOs, cancer survivors, and high performers come to legitimately upgrade their biology and add healthy years to their lives. So, Troy, welcome and glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's start here. How did you get involved in the, I guess I'll call it the wellness field, but also the medical field as well?
Yeah, so I mean, a huge part of what I'm doing now has been a big part of my own personal journey through challenges. I mean, I think everyone has some form of life story or challenges that they have to face throughout their life. And mine came from a background of substance abuse and addiction. And from a very early age, I was fascinated with like physical movement, weight training, and I had a real core connection to that in my earlier years. But as I went through my life and had challenges with addiction and certain periods that had sabotaging effects on my life, at the age of 30 was where I really had a big life-changing experience where I knew that if I didn't make some serious changes now, I wasn't going to have the quality of life that I wanted to have a beautiful wife, a family, and even just the quality of health and longevity. So for the last 10 to 11 years, I really dived deep in the world of biohacking. For anyone who doesn't really understand that term, that's where we're using external influence to hack our biology, to optimize performance, to help with recovery. And that's where I dive deep into different technologies such as oxygen therapy, LED light stimulation, pulse electromagnetic frequencies, breath work, meditation. So it was a whole holistic outlook of mind, body, and soul, and how we can bring them all together in one space, and to be able to educate and teach people how to utilize these different therapies, the ability of using the brain and its ability to heal the body, and using these external influences to basically supercharge your cells and start to reverse chronic health issues, optimize athletic performance, and have like a longer expansion of life longevity.
Okay. So this kind of journey was for you personally, but then kind of what led you to want to start your own business? Why start Culture OC? Why not just kind of do it for yourself and just you get the benefits?
Yeah, well, if we take hyperbaric oxygen chambers and that hyperbaric oxygen medicine, we for most people the only access they have to that is in a hospital setting, and with that, it's used for multiple different things in regards to external wound healing, traumatic brain injury and concussion regeneration, brain regeneration, but these things can be used just for good quality health and well-being. Because I'd done so much work on myself and seen the benefits of combining different therapies like red light and hyperbaric, I really wanted to bring this to have more access to society and people that wanted easier access and other options of non-invasive treatments for healing and recovery. And that's where I realized that one, I have my own experience and journey that's benefited me, but I wanted to be able to share this with people in society, create really strong community, and then start to educate people on the benefits of these different therapies and how they can be supportive to longevity or recovery or even athletic performance.
Okay, got it. Now, you talked a lot about talked about a lot of different treatments that you offer. And I think for some people who are not familiar with biohacking, I think a lot of these things come with like a foreign language, that some of these words that you've thrown out there. But some people, even in the biohacking space, may not know the full benefits. So can we go through maybe like the top three or four individual treatments, and what really the benefit is for each one of those ones?
Yeah, the main aspect of what we're doing is reducing inflammation, increasing ATP, which is cellular energy,
Mhm.
and cell communication, as well as increased microcirculation and blood flow. With the hyperbaric, the science behind what we're doing there is you're in a vessel that's being pressurized. So it's the same as going below sea level, where your body's under pressure, and you're breathing in 95 to 100% oxygen. So when we breathe in the air that's just around us, about 21% of that is oxygen that our body takes in, and oxygen fuels our cells. So our cells need oxygen to increase ATP production, and then when you have basically as we're aging or if you have an injury, the tissue becomes hypoxic. That means there's a lack of oxygen to the tissue, which is what it needs for cellular energy production, reduced inflammation, and then feeding that tissue the oxygen that helps regenerate it through stem cell mobilization. On a red light therapy bed, our red light bed has two different wavelengths of red light, two different wavelengths of infrared light. And what that's doing, the rays of light that we talk about are naturally what we would get from the sun in the very early morning and late afternoon sun when you can look at the sun without it being damaging to the eyes. But we're not exposed to it in a way or enough to get the benefits out of it. So our cells were made up of trillions of cells. They convert that light energy into ATP production, more cellular energy production. Infrared increases blood flow and microcirculation to the area. So we're getting a huge reduction in inflammation once again. We're charging our cells. And it's also important we're one physical form, but not all cells are the same, yet they all communicate and need to communicate to get a healing response within the body. So on the red light bed, we're increasing cellular energy, getting cell communication, and increasing blood flow and circulation. On the PEMF devices, that's a pulse electromagnetic frequency device. We're simulating some of the same things through different technology. Once again, we're increasing ATP production, very important, cell communication, inflammation reduction. And on the PMF, it's actually when cells bind together, that tends to cause an inflammatory response within the body. And a PMF device is also almost like a slight massage where it's separating cells so they're not binding together. So there's some of the three main therapies that we use, and we actually have a protocol called our super healing protocol where we actually stack technologies together as one single protocol. At Culture, we use our PMF device with a brain tap device. And that brain tap device is an audio headset that uses light and audio frequencies. It's designed by Dr. Patrick Porter, who works in the space of psychology. And through all their clinical tests and studies showed that using this technology, we can shift our brainwave activity into more of a delta or theta state, which is our parasympathetic state of recovery. So why we use that before the red light and then the hyperbaric is because our brain is what's sending and receiving signals for healing the body. So we want you to be in the right mental state. We're using the PMF to start the process of healing. Then that we move you on to the red light therapy bed. We're then increasing the same effect as what the PMF, but we get the release of trapped nitric oxide that allows more increased oxygenation into the cell. And then when we go into the chamber, we're flooding the body with oxygen. So we get this super healing effect in regards to one protocol designed with different or multiple different therapies.
Got it. I want to go back to the red light one because I've heard this. You're mentioning the wavelengths matter. So I don't know if there's a difference between the red light and infrared, but is there a difference between red light and then infrared? And even within infrared, there's the near and then the far.
Yeah,
So are there
so
really differences, and like what are the differences?
Yeah, so the most research and clinical studies with red specifically is 630 to 680.
Hmm.
And then when we're talking with infrared, we're talking 850 up to a sort of 1,000, where you're getting different aspects of wavelength delivery, and they produce a different biological response in the body.
Mm.
So our brand and the bed we use is LightStim, which is a local Californian company, a family-run company. They've been around for over 20 years. They actually started in the aesthetics business. What they were using with aesthetics was red light and amber, and that was producing more collagen and elastin in the skin, which would have had the effects of skin tightening in regards to removing wrinkles. So that was originally used in a lot of med spas where they were using it for recovery with injectables and different facial lasers and facial rejuvenation.
Okay. And what about the infrared side, the near infrared and the far infrared? Is that part of the protocol, or is that, and what effects do those ones have?
So they play a different role in regards to, so we have infrared saunas which uses near, far, and mid infrared
Mm.
technology. And in a sauna setting, basically these wavelengths of light that don't have a color range. So unlike red, you can physically see it's red.
Mhm.
Infrared, you don't see it has no color spectrum,
Mhm.
but it's actually heating the tissue up. So it's penetrating the tissue down to a deeper layer.
Mhm.
And then in an infrared sauna, we're really using that for detoxing. So basically, you could say it's almost simulating like being in an oven where you're being heated up from the inside out. And when we're talking about the use of sauna in general, what we're doing with that is using that to detox our body from environmental toxins and chemicals. Our skin is basically like a sponge, is absorbing its environment. And unfortunately, depending on where you live, we're generally exposed to a lot of environmental toxins and chemicals through air pollution, even our bathing water, even from the city, it has a lot of chemicals in it. Our cleaning products, we're absorbing that. And if you look at a lot of the long-term research and studies out of a lot of the Northern European countries where sauna practice is more of a regular weekly lifestyle habit, we
Mhm.
see a huge decrease in all-cause mortalities such as
Mhm.
cardiovascular disease, heart disease, up to 50% reduction
Wow.
because of the ability to detox through the sweat glands.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have the sauna where it's the near, far, and mid. Is it something where you would go into the sauna and you do like 5 minutes of near, 5 minutes of mid, and 5 minutes of far? Or it's like, oh, if you have this issue, do the near. If you have this issue, do the far. Or
Well,
how does that work?
well, in a sauna, these are combined. So we have,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that they're using these three different wavelengths of infrared as ability to reduce inflammation, increase blood flow and circulation, and heat the tissue up from a deeper level. So we're getting
Hmm.
that toxin removal.
Got it. Okay. And then the super healing protocol that you were talking about, this is basically you're stacking these on top of the other. Is the protocol really kind of set in stone, like you're getting this, and this? Or are you looking at the individual first and kind of figuring out, okay, based on what your situation, what you need, we're going to put this, and this together, and that's the super healing protocol for you, but it could be different for somebody else.
Yeah, that's it can be different for each individual person. Because we are biologically different, we biologically respond different to certain treatments.
Mhm.
So part of what we do when we're working with clientele is we're actually gauging how they're responding in regards to their biological response to each different therapy, because we can either lower the amount of time, lower the amount of pressure. We can remove certain therapies where we might be getting somewhat of a negative response to how the client is responding to each therapy.
Okay. Now, when should someone come and see your business? Like, is something where if they're feeling not well or sick or they're suffering from something, or just people that just want to get more out of the, like maybe they're healthy and they're okay, but they just want to get more out of it. Like, in what situations would someone want to come and see your business?
Yeah, well, with our business model, we work with a huge demographic because of what you're kind of sharing. So you have people who are post-surgery recovery. They're trying to speed up their recovery time because you've whether a shoulder reconstruction. We're in Newport Beach, so we get a lot of cosmetic tattoo or plastic, not cosmetic tattoo, cosmetic surgery in regards to plastic surgeons. So with oxygen therapy, you're going to speed up the healing process by up to 30 to 40% by
Mhm.
supplying more oxygenated blood plasma under pressure to the tissue where it regenerates faster. Then we've worked with a multitude of different people from chronic fatigue to Lyme's disease. A lot of what we're doing now is getting a lot more recording of data in regards to when people come to see us because in the space that I'm in, there's not a lot of research or clinical trials around a lot of the things here in the US of what we can treat with these different therapies.
Mhm.
But if you do look outside the US to South America, parts of Europe where they use these different technologies, they're seeing a huge amount of results with all kinds of different things in regards to chronic health issues. And then from a longevity point of view, like if we give the body the right input and when we're evaluating someone, we're looking at lifestyle habits as well. Because if you don't have good nutrition habits, you're not physically moving and training, you don't have good quality sleep, water consumption, or even understanding your blood work and looking at where your hormones are and micronutrient levels. There's no point going to a center to use all these treatments if we're not looking at the baseline first. So, because of what we do, we can extend longevity, we can increase athletic performance, we can speed up recovery time. So, we work with a huge demographic of different people in society.
Okay. And when it comes to these modalities of treatment, can they really be for anybody, or is it only when they're sick? Like you kind of mentioned, I'll use the example of like the hyperbaric chamber, like you said, it's meant for like wound healing and reducing inflammation. But if I don't have a wound, if I don't have inflammation that I can think about, would it still be helpful to me? I'm thinking about like medicines. Like I only take medicine if I'm sick with something specific. I don't take the medicine if I'm not sick. But can this be taken whether you have, I'm gonna call it the sickness or not?
Yeah, of course. So we are trying to move towards preventative health and wellness, which based on our lifestyle habits, we generally have a high level of inflammation. So, in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, obviously, if you were very healthy, you might want to use it once a week for just good quality and longevity. If
Mm,
you were recovering from a surgery, you're going to be in that chamber 4 to 5 times a,
mm,
a week over a period of time because you're specifically using it for the benefits of healing faster. But then you have longevity protocols. I mean, the red light bed at a minimum, being on that 3 times a week is great for just general health and well-being. And then if we want to optimize our cellular performance, which is how our body is communicating and operating, we can devise different protocols. If you're an athlete and you want to get more out of your performance and recover faster, there's certain protocols and treatments and technologies that we can utilize for you to optimize that recovery and get a much better performance out of your chosen sport.
okay, good to know. So it's really going to come down to the frequency depending on what the needs. Like everything is going to be good, but depending on you specific, you may need to do this one more than somebody else.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, got it. And on the topic of frequency, generally, like if someone is typically healthy, what is the recommended frequency for these different treatments, these different protocols?
So as a good longevity protocol, 1 session a week in a hyperbaric is great. 3 sessions a week on a red light bed, if you can do that, is really great.
Mhm.
But when we look at cold plunging, we teach guided breath work and cold plunge practices. And as I mentioned earlier, we have infrared saunas.
Mhm.
When you look at the science behind using sauna on a regular basis, the stats I told you about decreasing those all-cause mortalities is
Mhm.
up to 4 to 7 times a week. So, everyone has a life with work and kids, so it's managing what you can really fit into your schedule.
Mhm.
And that's how we would profile someone. How much time do you have to spend with us? And then what would we best recommend based on the time you have to maximize the benefits of using different therapies?
Okay.
But, but for example, I'm 42 now. I have 4 kids. I'm extremely active with martial arts and weight training. I personally and when we look at therapies, we have to look at what works for each individual. So I personally, I'm a big cold plunge enthusiast.
Mhm.
I'm up Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 a.m. I'm in my cold plunge. I'm at the gym training martial arts at 5 a.m. to 7, then off to work. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I train jiu-jitsu at 6. I'm in the plunge at 5. And I do that every day, even Saturday and Sunday. But it's something that really provides a huge amount of benefits for me because I'm so active.
Mhm.
But with cold plunging, why I love that is because I don't know anyone that inherently wants to get into freezing cold water at any time of the day. But when you inherently do something that you physically don't want to do, you
Mhm.
actually start to rewire your brain in regards to how you
Mhm.
manage stress and challenges and discomfort. So for me, cold plunging is more of a mental health tool rather than a physiological tool, but I get a huge amount of benefits out of that because I am so active.
Wow. Okay. And then when it comes to kind of an offshoot of the frequency, how long should people be doing this? I know for cold plunge, I've heard like between 3 to 6 minutes is a good time frame, but like the hyperbaric chamber, that one I have no idea. The saunas, I've heard kind of different ranges, but what's your recommendation? Like how long should somebody be doing each of these?
Yeah, so you're right with the cold plunge. The 3 to 6 minute range is ideal. That's also based on temperature too.
Mm,
My cold plunges are around 40 degrees, so the lower end of temperatures. So I personally only do a 3 minute plunge when I'm plunging. When you're going above 45 up into the 50s, you can actually spend a little bit more time in there because it's not as cold. But
mhm,
what we teach with cold plunging, it's very important to control your breath because you don't want to we're using this environment as a controlled state of stress, not an uncontrolled state of stress. If it's uncontrolled, you're going to start to release a lot more cortisol, which is not good for the body.
mm,
And through our breath, we control our heart rate and we control our emotional fight or flight response.
mm,
Hyperbaric, a lot of the research, clinical studies, and trials have been done around the 60 to 90-minute time frame. So depending on what we're treating, most of our time frames do work in the middle around 70 minutes. But if it's more longevity and health and wellness, you can do like a recharge session for like 40, 45 minutes.
mm,
Our red light bed is it's a full body red light therapy bed. Unlike some of the models on the market, which look like the old solarium or tanning beds, where it has a top that closes down.
mhm,
Ours is a single flat bed, and I'll share some of the science why. So it's actually the longest treatment time is 40 minutes because you're doing 20 minutes on your back and then
mm,
you're flipping over and doing 20 minutes on the front side.
mhm,
Now, with the red light science and what they've discovered is that if you want to get a deeper penetration into the layer of the tissue, you need to be within a quarter of an inch of the light projection.
mm,
And it's very important in regards to how that light is delivered. So our bed is made up of different modules of LEDs with a very short beam length in regards to the light wave.
mhm,
And what that means is that it's going straight into the tissue. Some of these other beds on the market are using like red tubes or look like fluorescent tubes, and they
mhm,
do not direct light energy deeper into the tissue because they don't have that angle of light that really penetrates the tissue. And then
mhm,
when you're closing the top down, you're actually not close enough to the light to get the benefits of a deeper cellular healing response.
mhm,
So there, and that's, I mean, LightStim has been through a huge amount of clinical studies and trials to get their FDA approval for a medical, red light device on the market. And these are some of the things they had to go through, even down to the acrylic that you lie on. They spent 4 years with four of the major acrylic makers to find something that when the light hit the acrylic, it didn't shoot off and direct the light at an
mhm.
angle and disperse it and able to shoot straight through into the tissue.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, and
So,
then with a sauna, most of the studies we've seen is a minimum of 20 minutes in a sauna. Our saunas when you're in a sauna, you actually go through different stages of what happens biologically. 20 minutes is the real minimum time for the best purposes of detoxing the body.
Okay, good to know. So you've gone through all these different treatment modalities. If someone's kind of looking at this for the first time, I mean, where do they even start? I mean, I've looked into things like this before in the past. I think I found one company out in downtown LA, and it's like, okay, well, we do cold plunge, and then we have sauna, and then we have this, then this, and like I have no idea where to start. So where can someone start with if they want to start this journey?
Well, you really want to have a baseline of understanding what you want to do any of these therapies for. So
Mm,
if you're healthy and you have a good quality of life and it's just more longevity, you're not looking to heal an ailment or a chronic health issue. So getting a baseline of like, okay, why do I want to use these therapies? What am I managing? And then really finding a facility that is able to educate you on each one and why you would use it. Even touching on, I've used cold water immersion and breath work as a really powerful mental health tool for people going through anxiety and depression.
mm,
Obviously, there's the physical benefits, and I get the benefits out of that for having a high active life, but I use it more for mental health benefits. Um, you know, like what information do you personally have? What are your hormone levels like? Or is your body holding on to a lot of inflammation? Because if you have high inflammatory markers within the body, then we can say, okay, red light is very anti-inflammatory. So is sauna, so is cold plunge. And then our anti-inflammatory protocol is actually the PEMF, the red light bed, the guided breathwork cold plunge, and the sauna as one protocol, because all of them provide a huge amount of benefits in inflammation reduction. So you have to have a baseline understanding of like why you want to use them and your intention behind them, and then finding a facility that's not just going to have you come in the door and go, yeah, please go off and use this or use that. No, like have someone educate you on why you would use this and how it's going to benefit you.
Okay, so when someone's looking for a business or a practice that offers these type of treatments, it's really going to come down to the educational component. How that's going to separate them. Like you want to go to some place that's going to really educate you on this and what you should do for you specifically.
Yeah, and I think, if you're looking for a business, if you go to our website, each page on each modality has an incredible amount of information that's easy to digest and gives reference points to case studies. It gives reference points to post-surgery or athletic performance. So you can actually be on the website and get enough information to actually understand what it is, what it does, why I would use it as a baseline to then go, okay, these people seem to know what they're doing. They're very educational. And if I want to learn more, obviously, if they're providing this information online, hopefully they would have the ability to articulate this if I organize an evaluation or even go into the business to do a tour of the facility.
Okay. And Troy, what are some of the most common misconceptions or myths that you hear about these treatments? I know it's relatively new for most people, like the regular public. So, but what are some of those common misconceptions or myths that you hear?
Yeah, one of the big ones at the moment is around women cold plunging. I know there was a lady on Mel Robbins' podcast. She was a doctor, and she basically shared her insights of why cold plunging wasn't beneficial for women.
Mm.
It was debunked by quite a few industry leaders and other doctors around the potential. Look, anyone can have a negative side effect to anything because, as I share, we are biologically different. We respond to things differently. Same as no one diet fits everyone, no one style of training program fits everyone. So, when we're in a space of biohacking, our best biofeedback is how you respond to something. Now, the topic of cold plunging in women, yeah, there are different variables that can play a different role. Like from the Eastern philosophies, we don't want really women in a cold plunge close to their menstrual cycle because with Eastern philosophies, regardless of whether you're having a child or looking to have a child, you want to keep the womb warm around this time of the menstrual cycle. So the whole women and cold plunging thing is a case by case sort of study in regards to would it be beneficial for you or would it not? And then you have to look at how someone is going to respond to each individual therapy to understand whether that's going to be something that benefits them or whether it's not. Even with hyperbaric in the chamber, because you're being pressurized, there's a lot of pressure around the ears. That's where we equalize. So if you've had a eardrum surgery or sensitive ears, this is something, regardless of if you need it or not, might be something that you can't use based on your physiological response to being in that environment. So we have to judge it by by case situation to see what is going to be the best treatment and best protocols and services for the person that we're in front of at the time.
Okay. Now, throughout the time you've had this practice, I'm sure that you've come across some challenging cases or maybe memorable cases. Is there maybe one story that you can share about just someone that came in, they were struggling with something and how you were able to get them a successful outcome in the end?
Yeah, we had about a year ago, we had a lady, she was diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer in her hip.
Hmm.
And before she met us, she'd already been through multiple stages of chemotherapy. And in chemotherapy, obviously, they're trying to target cancerous cells to basically, remove the cancer and slow its aggressiveness and eventually regenerate the body. But with chemo medicine, it affects every cell because it's going into your body. So this starts to deplete every cell in the body. And she got to a point where her body was so depleted that they couldn't continue chemotherapy because she was essentially dying or they were killing her in the process. So she was looking for other alternatives, other non-invasive treatments. And she came to our facility and We're very proactive. We're not here to diagnose or go outside of the frame of work that we can do. So we work with their oncologists and their doctors in regards to advice and recommendations. But she spent 3 months with us doing our super healing protocol, anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week for 3 months without doing any chemo medicine. And during that time, she was transferred to new doctors at UCLA. And when they redid all her scans and blood work, they were kind of bamboozled or shocked because at that point, with the transfer, they didn't know she was doing all these biohacking treatments. And all her blood work came back optimal. The cancer had actually stopped growing. It was less aggressive. All the nodules on her lungs had actually disappeared. She had a 100% lung capacity, and she was healthy enough to then work with them to go through more chemotherapy treatment. So that
Wow.
that one in itself was a special client that we became really good friends with because in such a serious situation and seeing them on a daily basis, you're becoming really close and getting to know someone. So that was a really remarkable case of what we were able to do just with non-invasive treatments to help regenerate her body, to give her more options in regards to her cancer treatment and her support.
Wow. Okay. Now, where do you think the future of biohacking is going?
Oh, it's big. It's the fastest growing industry, or
Mhm.
one of the fastest growing industries in the world right now. And
Mhm.
you're seeing it. You're seeing a lot of residential developments, hotels starting to create wellness rooms as well in their construction or converting space into wellness rooms because one, we have the science. People are right into it. They love doing all these sorts of things. And I think it's very impactful that we're starting to look towards more preventative options. We don't want to have a country or a planet full of sick people we're trying to heal. We want to get to a point where we're creating better lifestyle habits and we have technologies that can help optimize how the body is from a health and wellness point of view. And I think it's just going to continuously grow and grow and grow. Now you have the introduction of things like peptides that are really starting to take off, and things will just keep to things will just keep being input into this space of biohacking. And then, obviously having leaders who can educate and share the benefits of all these therapies and external influences such as peptides and supplementation. It's really going to have a huge impact on the health and wellness of our societies.
Okay. And with your practice, Culture OC, what's your vision for the business?
Well, in that form of growing, my dream has always been to be an international brand and an international company with locations all around the world,
Mhm.
and to really be the leaders in regards to how we utilize stack therapies and having the case studies of the benefits of the people we've helped, and continuously using our model to work with different chronic health issues and have enough data and research behind showing the benefits of how we can use these therapies to regenerate someone's body without potentially having to go into really harsh, medical interventions such as chemotherapy or even surgeries and different things, because now we have the science and technology to evolve ourselves into this space and use it as a preventative or a non-invasive treatment plan.
Wonderful. Now, Troy, I have one last question for you. But before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at cultureoc.com.
Yep.
Now, last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Beauty. Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound a bit old-fashioned, and we live in a materialistic world, but the essence of someone's soul and who they are and how they turn up in the world, and how they treat others, to me, that's what real beauty is. I mean, we all have this, individual attraction to what we see that we find beautiful. But when you have a connection with how someone treats you, their philosophies, their intention in the world, and it comes from a place of good, to me, that's real beauty. Because where we seem to be in a world that seems to be pulled apart and we're vetted against each other, whether it's through different religions, race, where you're born, skin color. But at the end of the day, we're all human, a part of the same race, wanting the same things. We all want love, protection, safety, and connection. And these are all things that we should aim to work towards, as a whole community around the world, because that's essentially where growth happens, not when you're being pitted against each other and using belief systems that are taught to separate us. So I think real beauty comes from within who you are, how you present, and how you treat other people.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Troy sharing his expertise. So, Troy, where can people contact you and your business?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, cultureoc.com. You can connect with us there. And then we have all our social media outlets from TikTok to YouTube to Instagram, which is Culture OC. Pretty much are the handles for all of them that you'll be able to find us. We are very intentional about creating community and providing the education and support that people are looking for if they're not sure of what they want to do, what they need, or if they're needing help with certain, ailments or issues that they're going through.
Awesome. Well, Troy, this is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing more about this new and growing field, biohacking. I think a lot of people can get a lot of benefit from it. So thank you again for coming on and sharing your message.
No, I appreciate you having me on. And one last thing is, I really appreciate people like yourself creating these platforms for people to be able to receive this sort of knowledge or even find new things that they might not be aware of. I really believe that people like yourself creating these podcasts within their own community is something extremely powerful that helps us get the message out, educate people, or just make them aware. So I really want to say thank you and appreciate your time and having me on today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.